Ngọc Lục xin mến chào tất cả các bạn. Ngọc Lục đến trễ, hôm nay có một cái buổi hội thảo tuần lễ của người tị nạn đó. Thì thành ra là 4 giờ 15 phút giờ địa phương bắt đầu, nhưng mà bây giờ mình 4 giờ rưỡi rồi. Mình mới đậu xe, mình còn đi lang thang ở trên đường phố đây nè. Đây là đường phố ngoài Kalamata nha. Cái vùng này á là thủ phủ của người Việt Nam. Đông dữ lắm. Ở ngoài này á, mình không có cần nói tiếng Anh, mình chỉ nói tiếng Việt cũng đủ rồi quý vị. Ở đây là cái nơi mà có cái buổi hội thảo nào quý vị nha. Ngọc Lục chuyển màn hình lại ha. Hello. Đây, Kabramara Community Hall. Thì cái buổi hội thảo đó sẽ trong đây. Ngọc Lục đi vô. Anh chị em có khỏe không? May mắn quá cũng chưa có bắt đầu. Hello Chow, how are you? We haven't started yet. Chưa có bắt đầu quý vị ơi, mình không có trễ. Giờ mình kiếm chỗ mình ngồi. Hello Tú.
Good to see you, G.
In my live stream.
Oh, you're live streaming. We're going to live stream too.
This is Tú Lê, very famous. The one in Fowler, phải không em?
I live there.
Mình ngồi đại chỗ nào cũng được hả em? Anyway hả em? Ok. Em có làm livestream không?
Yes.
Ok. Như vậy thôi chị khỏi làm.
Yeah, you can share this one.
Ừ đúng rồi. Quý vị, Tú Lê cũng đang có livestream trang nào em? Vô em.
Vietnamese Australian Forum.
Oh, ok.
Page, yeah.
That page hả? Rồi, ok quý vị. Vào cái trang Vietnamese Australian. Cái trang mà Ngọc Lục có share ở trên cái tường nhà của mình á. Quý vị vào trang đó thì sẽ có cái livestream của cô Tú Lê luôn ha. Hello anh Thân, anh khỏe không? Dạ. Để Ngọc Lục chuyển màn hình lại nha quý vị. Mình chưa có trễ đâu nha. Bắt đầu mọi người còn đang chuẩn bị nè. Anh chị em cho Ngọc Lục xin phép thử share cái livestream của cô Tú Lê nha. Tại vì cổ là người lo cho cái chương trình này đó, mà mình không share kỳ lắm. Bây giờ để Ngọc Lục kéo cái màn hình mình lên. Dạ không được. Mình không có share được tại mình đang livestream. Quý vị có muốn mình làm livestream tiếp tục hay là mình ngưng ở đây? Mình share cái trang bên kia. Sau cái này mình không có nói chuyện được nữa nha. Tại vì người ta sẽ nói đó, mình không có nói, cho nên mình chỉ lắng nghe thôi nha. Maybe I'll sit at the front so I can hear better. Mình lên chơi mình ngồi cho mình quay thấy nó rõ hơn đó.
Okay, so xin chào các bạn and everyone to another Vietnamese Australian Forum. We're coming to you in person and streaming online from Cabramatta Community Hall, which is on never ceded Darug land. And most of us are relatively recent arrivals, so on behalf of all of us, I express our respect to First Nations people and commit ourselves to listen and to learn so that we can better belong to Big C country and to this country, Australia. I'm Kim Hun, and I'm part of the Vietnamese Australian Forum, which acts as a collective to advance Australian society by promoting diverse perspectives and advocating political, economic and cultural progress. It's really easy and enriching to join the forum. The deets are on our Facebook page, and we invite you to basically just join us in running cool and cutting-edge events, just like this one. This event marks the start of the 2022 Refugee Week, and today we're exploring the power of refugees. So for the next hour or so, and really forever, put aside any sense that refugees are weak or destitute and silent. Instead, recognise the power of refugees. The power of refugees to change the places they come from, the places that they move through, and where they settle. The power of refugees to challenge how we understand borders and to challenge our commitment to humanity. And because it's going to be a challenging discussion, a reminder, whether you're from a refugee or non-refugee background, do look after yourself, look after your mental health and your well-being, and look out for others too. There's resources out there. If you don't know what's out there, then get in contact with VAF. We've got some people with expertise, and I'm pretty confident we'll have a forum later on Vietnamese and refugee mental health. That'll be a very important one too. So look after yourself. So we've got three really powerful panellists today. They're heroes of mine. I'm sure they don't mind me saying, even if it's a little embarrassing. You get a chance to ask some questions if you're here live, and you can shoot through comments and questions anytime online via the BAF Facebook page. On my left is Farhat Khorsani. She's an author, a student, a women's rights activist, and she fled Afghanistan last year in 2021 and came to Australia. She's got an amazing story. You'll hear a little bit more of that. Abdul Hafez arrived in Australia in 2013 as a 15-year-old. He's a Rohingyan and is often referred to the Rohingyans as one of the most persecuted minorities in the world. His journey is also just absolutely extraordinary as an unaccompanied minor. He left on a boat with 740 people, months and months and months, made his way along throughout Southeast Asia in every mode of transportation you can imagine before coming to Australia, where he was detained for 6 months in Tasmania. And speaking of incredible stories, Karina Wang is an author, scholar, public administrator, public intellectual, and actor too. You may have seen her in the ABC hit series The Heights. Her book, carried at 300 kilometres from Canberra, and very happy to do so, Boat People, is just a landmark book, really creatively, and it's well worth the look. Still for sale in both English and Vietnamese, and you can have a look at a couple of copies here. So we'll have a chat over the next half hour or so between the four of us. Feel free to ask questions on the floor, and as I said, online, shoot through questions anytime, and we'll forward them to us. I'll say, but before we do that, please welcome Farhat, Abdul, and Karina. So really, each of their stories is just too much. It's just too much. So I'll try to focus on a different part of each of their stories and what it's meant to them and how it's changed them. But I'll note Farhat's story is in a documentary made by Addison Road. We'll have details of that on the website. Abdul's story is on ABC Radio Canberra, hailing Ali. He goes by a pseudonym there. And Karina, well, you can see her anywhere we turn on the TV or go to the library. So, and particularly Karina's TEDx talk, I looked at again after 8 years, and I remembered all of it, and it's just next level too. What an incredible journey and storyteller she is. We'll start with you, Farhat. You arrived here most recently, and I should say all of them arrived here as left as young people. In those two cases, 15 and 16 too. So that's the only thing. There's one of the things they have in common. We'll find out what else they have in common. But Farhat, you came here last year. Can you tell us how you escaped Afghanistan?
Hello everyone. As you know, my name is Farhat Khorsani. I escaped the Taliban first of everybody. My government, everything was okay. But I heard Taliban would take the capital because my parents was in Kabisa, which is my birthplace. It was around afternoon and evening. My dad rang me and he said, "My daughter, stay safe and don't come home." I said, what happened? Why? You say because Taliban take the coffee shop and try to go somewhere, even Pakistan. So keep yourself safe. And I told my dad with full of confidence, don't worry about me, everything is okay here in capital. Today I just went to university and I'm on my way, no worries. But I was a little bit worried. So I tried to find some way by my classmate helps. I find Dubai visa and I tried to save myself to Dubai through international airport of Afghanistan. So everything was normal. I cannot say goodbye for my parents and I cannot see them. And it was near to the weekend, so I was supposed to go to my parents, but I can't. I cannot bring my old things, especially my books. And I left my one book since I was 13 years old, and I was write all my diaries, include my happiness and my sadness, and a big book. But I cannot bring it with myself. Like so hard I escaped the Taliban. And I was stuck in Dubai for 3 months, or maybe more. But I tried to find a safety in a selective countries. So finally, by help of a decent road community organization, I find my safety to Australia, and the pupils helped me a lot with Craig Foster, Rosanna Barbero, and Tamkin Hakim. They changed my life, and they gave me like a new page of life. So I start in Australia with 0. Even I cannot bring my clothes, so I bring some clothes which was for summer, but when I arrived to Australia it was winter. So imagine for my whole lifeline I cannot bring clothes to work for me. So I came with 0. But still I'm so hopeful for my future. Still I'm so powerful to think about what's happened to me, but I don't want it to happen for someone else again. So I'm really trying to hardworking, to work on my education, and to find my life pathway. Thank you so much.
Abdul, you're famous. You're famous as a Rohingya in Canberra and also as a rideshare driver, Uber driver. Lots of people ask you where you come from. What do you think? What do you say when people ask you where you come from? Are you happy to respond?
Yes, as part of my job, I met a lot of people every day, and I think it's just because of the nature of the job, or I don't know whether it's like something else that giving the people the hint. Yeah, I do get a lot of questions about where I came from, when I came, and all those questions. This question, sometimes, most of the time, can be very interesting, or like a lot of the time, it can be very interesting. I get to share my story to the people, and where it seems to be people genuinely appreciating my an effort to tell them my story, and sometimes I even met people who have been to the many remote part of my country where I have no one in my in long line of ancestors have never been to those places. But sometimes there's also those questions that can be, you feel coming from some negative places where the question is coming where to make you feel you don't belong here. We as a refugee, when we came to a country, we try to do we do our 100% to adopt to the country, to learn the culture, to assimilate with people, to assimilate to the society. But when every day in your life you get bombarded by the questions of that's making you feel somehow you not belonging in the society. Most of the questions would be when are you going back? When are you leaving? Or where are you from? Or just people attitude of asking questions but not be ready to hear the answer, or going through the assumption of
last year, and there's a bigger Rohingya community here, but I asked you whether you talk about your journey with your friends here. You said, not really? Why is that?
Yes, we sometimes we don't tell, but it's talking in a not in a great detail. It's the detail, or sometimes some people will be kind of laughing or like hot terrible things. So we talk like not in great detail because it's never for pretty much for everyone. It's never been a kind of anything that is like a comfortable journey, because it has somehow like changed everyone who had like taken this journey. So it's not like often it's kind of like untold rule in the community, like not to go even you talk, but like oh yeah, if someone was in your boat, or like or someone was wasn't in your boat, like I told you someone was coming on your boat, like or like did you arrive to the town, or like or to the Christmas Island, because like because of the ongoing our crisis with the visa and everything, right? Just like just like in a really like shadow the detail of like just where you arrive when you live, mostly those never into the great detail of like there is like an occasion that the journey has been a fun journey. Many has to go through the like horrendous experience. So like yeah, when we first came in, we would like because it was like something really bad, like we didn't have like that would be like one of the biggest experience in our life. Would probably try to talk at the beginning, but then later we kind of came into the agreement. This is not a good topic to go like let's focus like something else, like how's the family going, or like how's the weather and all that stuff. Just go with the easiest stuff, not like really hard on topic, because it's never easy for anyone.
Karina, you've been telling your story in lots of different ways. It's an incredibly painful one, full of anguish and hardship and loss too. For many years now. How comfortable? Like, do you find it painful, or do you find it enriching, or both? How do you tell your story?
I have shared my stories over and over again over the years. So I feel more comfortable sharing my story. And also finding the meaning of telling my stories have made it a lot easier for me. Telling stories also is healing. And the reason that I tell the stories is for people to understand. And that alone gave me the courage. And when I share my stories, I found that it gives hope to other people. And so to me, I no longer feel uncomfortable or angry, but I find the power of sharing stories to give people hopes and inspiring.
This is a very difficult topic, but Abdul, maybe I'll ask you again, and then go to Fahad and Karina. I've heard you talk about guilt, the guilt of surviving, and it's difficult to grasp even for me. Can you elaborate a bit more if it's not too painful? Why do you feel guilty?
Yes, like the journey we taken to come to this country, it's like as I mentioned earlier, like it wasn't a fun journey, and especially if you are like a young person, like that has been brought up in a household, like where you are like taught to like look after for others, like to be like always be given to the community and stuff, like when you come those sort of family, like you can never get like retire from this sort of guilty feeling, like when like because I said like my guilty feeling, this comes like in many layers and many forms. It's like it's mostly when I first came in here, I would be like feeling so horrible, like that like I have survived here. I'm in a country where the community is such a lovely, such a welcoming, and the community is safe. Like I don't need to go and tell anyone. Like I don't need to get like a permission to go to the, my neighbors or like to go in and sleep over at my friends, and this was like a perfect freedom or like that perfect freedom or like perfect dignified human living that I thought this is. So when I thought like I was experiencing the best best life I could possibly get. I was like feeling horrible like but my friends, all my families, they've been stuck in the country where they're like living in the bush day and day, like whether in the country, whether in other countries, or like people who's been locked in the in a offshore detention centers for many years. And then as those things they're like getting a bit of like better and better, then like there's another big storm hurricane hit into my life, and it is like the displacement of my family, like they are like flying to the neighboring country Bangladesh in 2017. And that occasion I thought like I was feeling guilty, like I was feeling bad, like that living the best life, the best possible life. But like my friends, who said for 10 years on my left side, on my right side in a school, they are like either sleeping in the bush in Malaysia, or they are sleeping like or they are locked in the Nauru or like Papua. But the life went by. I thought that was the worst, but it was nothing compared to like when my family had to go to the Bangladesh to save their life, and then live in the makeshift like shelters, or like going from the home to homes to find a place to sleep, because it was so big family. They can't like they have so many kids and stuff. They can't just go and like live under the tent, because like there's like there will be risk to many form of like harm. And yeah, when like like every day, like it's even like there's can be sometimes so expensive that like you would feel like if you had a bowl of rice in the front of you, you would like instantly you got like your parents or they going or there's like like it's like I'm here today, sitting in a restaurant, sitting like with my family, but like my father would be like standing in the line,
Is that
to get his ration.
yeah, a bowl of rice is enough to evoke guilt. You've talked about guilt too, Farhad. You're away from your family. If it's okay, can you elaborate? Do you ever feel guilty?
Actually, it is really hard for me to be far away from my parents, but I don't have any choice. I have to. Even sometimes I feel really tough, like I feel with no energy, like I want to sit on the floor and cry as much as I can. But when I am going to think very deep, so I don't have any choice. This is now, everything is on my hand to change. Like, especially in the evening when I come back to the college, or I see nobody is at home to ask me why you came late or why you came so early. So it gave me lots of feelings, lots of trauma, but I don't have any choice, But it's really hard, even I cannot explain it. It looks so easy, but it's really hard. So I think often I don't want the story that happened for me, I don't want to happen for someone else. That's why I really work hard. I really try my best to find a way to change this rule for the world. I really want to change rule for the world to accept each other and perfect humanity and stop to be racist. Stop killing each other without fault. Stop war, perfect humanity, build equality. I'm really thinking about these things, how I can change the world about my opinion. So, but it's really hard. It's really hard. Like I keep smiling, but I have something in my heart, and it's really hard for me personally. And I'm mature than my age, and I always talk with my dad. Don't worry about myself, and I'm talking with him like I'm a 60 years old woman. I keep smiling with my dad, and I give lots of confidence from my side. Like I need to cover both sides. For my side, which is my life, and I have like 2 long life way, and another side is my parents. They're so important for me. Like whatever I am today, it's my dad's work, it's my mom's work. So I need to keep balance for both sides. So I cannot give up. And this is my speed. I never give up. This is life. Everything comes, but it's because we can change the page. And maybe if it's happened to me, I fled from my motherland. But maybe it's key for changes the world. Maybe it is key to build a new things, to change the old words, to give opinion or idea for the people. That's why I'm so hopeful about future. Like it's really hard and tough, but I think it's a key for the success for the whole world, not especially for Australia or Afghanistan.
Fahad said that she doesn't have a choice. That's also similar to your TEDx talk, G. Karina, that no one would choose this, no one would choose to be in exile. But I also hear from Fahad that it's driven her, and obviously it's driven you too. Can you talk about the impact of you being a 16-year-old, going through what you went through, and how it's changed and driven you?
Yes. I'd like to answer your question by continuing to talk about the survival guilt. Feeling guilty when you survive and other people around you didn't make it is inevitable. It is some things that you don't have a choice or control over it. On my boat, people died. I watched the bodies being tossed in the ocean. On the island, there's a refugee camp. People on my left side died and the right side died. I'm still alive. That's something that you can't control and you feel guilty about it. But on top of that, my own cousin also died at 17 in the refugee camp. So for me, the question, what's the difference? I am no better than them. I'm not healthier. I didn't have anything more than they have, but they didn't make it. So how do you make sense of it, and how do you cope with that? So for me, I just am grateful for what I was given and that I was able to survive, and to deal with the guilt, I try to find ways to give back. So one of the ways for me to do that is to go back to the refugee camp to find the graves of those who died and didn't have a proper burials, so that their loved ones can find some closure. And it's a way to show respect and also to embrace what I was given, which is to be alive. And the effect of being alone and escape as an unaccompanied minor is extremely complex. It's confusing because at 16 I didn't have a choice but became a parent to my younger sibling who was 12 and 10. In fact, my brother is here among us today. He was only a little 12 years old boy at the time. So I had to act as my mom to look after them, but at the same time, I'm just like my brother or sister. We all were scared and lonely and yearned for mom and dad. And while I was making that decision, I always questioned myself, was it the right decision? And I was worried that if it was the wrong decision, I would be punished by my mom or my dad. So that's extremely confusing as a young person to be given that kind of responsibilities.
Yeah, what a story. I've heard Fahad say, it's just a really powerful line, I have to be my own mother, I have to be my own father, I have to be my own sister. But that makes you stronger if you can handle it too. Abdul, I've heard you talk about that being a refugee has made you different. It's made you who you are in some ways. I've been amazed at how good you are at things. You know how to read the weather, you know how to make something out of nothing, you know how to read people at their very best and very worst. But I'd be interested to hear from you. What's being a refugee done to you or made you, or how have you ended up out of that?
I believe, if you go through this sort of, this refugee journey is there. Regardless of what sort of refugee journey you are, whether you just, crossed from one border to another border by your foot, or, you have taken, a long journey, from one country to another country, or through the many countries. I think it's make you a lot resilient, I think. I think it's because, it's because you experience so much up and down in your life, and then, in that, through your journey to finding the safety, then they once you are in a settled society, then the challenges are doesn't it's not as big as the challenge you would have faced or most of the time you would have faced in the through all your journey. So because most of the people who go through this journey, they have would have been at least one or two times that's where for my personally I've been in many occasions where it's been what a life of prison or death or the life of death, and this sort of a incident in life that's to kind of make you more resilient as a person, and who make you look give you a sense that life is not it's sure it's give you all the value of the life that it will teach you that to look after others, to look after your community, to look after your all those things that are to look after others, right? So I think the refugees, they as a definition they are survivors, right? They survive through their ingenuity, through their creativity, through their courage. So yeah, it's hard not to be resilient.
And Fahad, we talked about, Abdul mentioned it too, Korean. We came here with nothing, and you're what are you doing now? I understand you're studying again, and we've had a chat about this. You're on a track to have all these dreams fulfilled in Afghanistan. Here you are in Australia. You're studying year 11, 12 again. Why are you doing that? How do you feel about that?
Before I answer these questions, I forget to add about how I feel guilty sometimes. I forget to tell you one point. The day the Taliban closed the door for schools, I feel really guilty. I cry all the day because I cannot do anything for my girls. I cannot do anything for education for a huge country with 36 million people. That day I really feel guilty, and I feel I am so powerless and my hand is closed. I cannot do anything for my people that day. And about these questions, I'm in love with education. My background is IT. I'm a network engineer about information technology, and I leave one of my fields was business banking administrations. So it means in one time I was a student with two fields. I left business banking administrations in 5th semester and my information technology in 8th semester. When I come to Australia, I see everything. I walk around. I become meet with lots of people. I see still I need to work on my education. So I try to go through back about school. So I'm happy to do that because of public educations can make me very strong about educations and teach me about everything life in Australia. And I'm happy to do that. I go through back 2 or 3 years that nobody make a point about my plans. I need to fill all my points, and especially I need to work on my education for the zero. I am happy to do that. To receive my HSC from Australia is my proud. For education is never late. I'm still a baby for education. I don't know anything, and I really need to learn.
G. Karina, you've done lots of courageous things, but one of them is you had no acting background and you became a TV star in the ABC series The Heights. You play Iris, who runs a shop. Why? Well, I assume it wasn't just to be rich and famous. Was it a politically important move for you to be a Vietnamese face on TV? And what was that process like?
I wouldn't consider that as a political movement, but it was by chance. I saw the ad that they were looking for a Vietnamese woman within this age group and with their acting experience to audition for a role in a drama series. I'm one of those who's not afraid do anything new. And I have been rejected many times in my life, especially as a sales rep, so I got used to, rejections. I said, why not? I'm just going to try it. The worst is they say no, but for me, it's more for the experience. But then once I was given the chance, I started to make sense of it and also to make the most out of it. And the first thing for me was to use my experience to encourage other young Vietnamese people who aspire to become actor and actress, not to be shy, not to be afraid, just give it a go. And also, I also encourage people who are older and always wanted to try, but thinking that without experience, with this age group, maybe you won't have a chance. You can try, and there will always be a chance somewhere out there. But more importantly, I'd like to share the idea with the parents of young Vietnamese people, because in our culture, being the arts and the acting and singing field was never a respectable things and was never encouraged by our parents. So I'd like the parents to know that being an actor is still any profession, is you have that dream, follow it. But back to your question though, interestingly, because the role, Iris, that I play depicts a life of a Vietnamese refugee single mom. She's extremely strong and hardworking, but she has a heart of gold. And I was happy to be given that role because it shows that people with refugee background are always, used to working hard to create our life, to pay for, to make sure our children have good education. But also because we have been through hard life, so we became more compassionate. So for her to have a heart of gold, it not necessarily because she was her nature, but it's because of life experiences that make her become more understanding, more compassionate, and more giving. And lastly, sorry, I was glad that ABC depicted that story because it's make refugees and everybody has to be more inclusive.
It's time to take some questions. It's been incredibly moving and informative for me as a kid of boat people too. I was on the boat when I was 2, but just to hear over different generations, things that have been part of my life, my identity, the courage, the hardship, the sense of duty, and a lot of goodwill too. So we have questions from the floor and also online. Rather than move the mic, maybe if anyone wants to stand up and ask a question, don't be shy. Yes?
Hi there, it's Anna, and I want to say thank you for today's event. This is the most authentic I've ever been. Like the far-right media, they like to make assumptions that is false. In fact, in reality, you have been through so much in your life. You have been through all the hard stuff. You did all the hard things. In fact, you guys have did all the hard things. You did all things that the politicians hate. And you did all things that the far-right dictators on the internet hate. Well done.
Thank you.
And this is an important, I've got to say, this is an important event. This is an important event for me. I've been doing this sort of thing for decades now. This is totally refugee-led, it's totally authentic, and it's painful too, but somehow we pull it off, and it's, this really is, I don't have quite words for it yet, but this is really important event, I think. We have a question online. Okay. Oh, yes.
So you spoke about with your journey being having a lot of pain and suffering, and I get that. And I was just wondering how you actually manage that. Do you feel better?
Yeah, we talk about mental health and what you do and maybe lessons about what not to do too that you can discover.
than a man. I am man more than my brother. My brother is still inside of my parents, is still inside of their arms. And I fly along by myself, and I can understand my changes in my brother and sister in me. Like, I was really different since I was child. Like, in my age, my cousins, my friends was playing with the doll, with the cartoons, with the TV, but I always watched the news with my dad. So it was my idea since I was a child. I was like different face, different idea about. I always talk with my dad about the world, about the news, about the problems, why that this happened for the Iran, why this happened for the Pakistan. I always discuss with my dad about politicians. And my dad was keep laughing and say for my mom, she's always sitting different and she's always sitting wearing clothes different. I have something for her future. And it was in my mind, and I keep power and I keep going strongly until now. Like, I bring my culture and I fly along by myself for overseas. It's not in my culture. And I start to build the changes. And after that, after me, my cousins fly alone. So I start everything alone. First of everybody in all my relatives, I start to go to university. And after me, my cousins start to go to university. And that's why I feel something about leadership. And I say I can be a good leader. And I can start something which is good and people can follow me. And that's why I cannot give up about this life. I know it's really hard. Still, I become in depression more than I can understand that, and I'm using chocolates because it's really hard. It's easy, like when people look at me and I always keep smiling, like I dress up really happy, I face looks so fresh, but I have something in my heart, and this is my secure, you know? This is a type of politician actually, so I don't have any choice and I needed to manage by my sister. Nobody is here to help me about that. The success of life is on my hands, so it depends on me to keep going and fell down and lost the key. So that's why I have to manage it. Everything is by my hands. So I say today in my interview with Karen with ABC News in Canberra, I say I can be for myself a mother, a father, a brother, a sister. And I'm always say for myself good job, keep going. Sometimes I really feel tough with powerless, and I say no, for I stand up again, and I start with different modes and change. I try to change my mode, but generally it's really hard.
So much there, but there was that line, it's not in our culture to flee our homeland. We hear that from Vietnamese too, being colonised. It's not like the first time that Vietnamese people have confronted things, but it's not in our culture. We don't do this by choice. So, Greg, you got a comment on that?
When you face challenges and hardship, it makes you stronger, and it makes you, be more resilient. So that's one thing that we got out of it. But just to cope with the pain and the challenges, luckily for me, I have my family, and that's how I can survive through this hardship. It's hard to do without your loved ones around you. So listening to her, I really feel for you because to go through all these challenges and you have no one else to lean on but yourself, that's really hard. I'm sorry that you have to go through that alone.
And Abdul, I know you're supporting family too. Like in some ways it's got worse for your family, particularly since 2016, 2017, almost entire displacement of the Rohingya community to Bangladesh. And you have to deal with that.
Yeah, I guess to answer your question, how do we cope, how do we find the comfort among the so much guilty? I think it's always having the hope, keeping the hope of there will be a better, there will be a better tomorrow, there will be a better, maybe a better year, maybe one day I will die, maybe a happy year, that what I have to, in 60, 70 years, 90 years old, hard to get all of the skills if you, but you can manage to live a life, normal life, while you have ability feeling, but only if you can balance your piety in your life, not so much of like, feeling too bad, but also be like, looking to those, your families and like, how much you mean to them. Like, how much they want you. Like, you can't be just like, oh yeah, I'm feeling guilty, like, I'm depressed, I'm like, I can't be just like hiding under this, rock. Which women probably had, like, if we had no one like to look after. But a lot of people who go through like our journey, it's like, we do feel guilty, but like, most of the time we can't care of the feeling guilty, like, we can't care of like, what is going through in our head, because like, there is so much bigger issues, we need to look after our family, our like, parents, like, if we thought we just understand, like, how much you mean to that, like, just trying to do better and better every day. Like, even once it's better, then it's like, it's still better.
Abdul, you've got a lot to be hopeful for. If you don't mind me saying that you and your wife are expecting your first child, so you have a new type of pressure that you'll be needing soon. But I wondered, what are you going to tell your kid about your journey? Are you going to be forthright and tell them where you came from and how you got here, or have you thought about that?
Didn't really test the goal, and yeah, but excitement and pressure. I mean, it's like, it's good kind of pressure, and I hope like everyone can enjoy it with good pressure. But hopefully like that's the goal, like to like keep the like this our history alive, like just pass to the next generation, like the generation that haven't like lived their life, we have to live this life, to understand them, like what is the ruler, what is the background of the what, how like one person has how much one person has sacrificed for another person, this person for better to like for a better in their life.
Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons this is an important discussion, because in different ways various people and forces have tried to wipe out our stories, or that it's been too painful to tell them for various reasons, and that's not happening here. The opposite's happening here. Any more questions? Yes, Adam?
Can I have a microphone?
Yeah, absolutely. Come down here.
Come down.
Come down here.
It's quiet.
Cô Ánh Linh.
Like the microphone is on. It's not big driving stuff.
At lunchtime today, I happened to have lunch with a group of Aussie people, and one of them is a Greek person, originally Greek, and I asked them, all of them, I said, we have a talk today about refugees. How about you come with me? And the title is The Power of Refugees. And one of them said, oh yeah, the refugees. The first generation couldn't do much, but the second, the third, they produced a lot of doctors and lawyers and all that, so that's the power of refugees. But on the other hand, a few of them said the reality. They said, Cabramatta was built by the Greeks and Italians, and now the Vietnamese came, and you see how much they queue in centering, and we pay for them, and a lot of them don't work, and they live like that for Australia to pay for them, and I don't think that's the power of refugees. So I was caught in between, and I couldn't invite them to come to the talk today. And I said, and we had a long conversation, but at the end I said, everywhere you will find good people and bad people. So you just imagine how refugees have suffered before coming here, and how they strive to achieve their life. They that's a reality, and we don't want to have refugees coming here and Australia have to have a burden of nourishing them or feeding them and all that. So I'm putting this today because I'm in a dilemma and I can't find the right answer to these people.
I think one answer before I pass it on to the panelists is that, well, every community is complex, but also it's whether you welcome people or not makes a big difference, right? Farhat, for all her difficulties, is a great example of what can happen very quickly in terms of devotion, in terms of dedication, in terms of strength, if we treat people right and welcome them. And Abdul is extraordinary that he still appreciates Australia and Canberra because Australia has brutalised him in many ways. And I feel like we want to get to a place where we don't have to be extraordinary to be refugees and contributors to our community. And we don't have to live up to those ideas that there's really successful Vietnamese who are doctors and all that sort of thing. Because there's a lot who are, but it's not. And they've got to take responsibility for that, I get that. But there's a lot of structural and historical reasons behind those stories too, is my sense. Karina, do you have any thoughts on that as an ultra-successful and Vietnamese refugee?
Thank you. Firstly, thank you for sharing your concern. I really feel for you to be in this conversation. It's very difficult. Unfortunately, it's very, very common right now. Refugees, there's a stigma, there's a lot of myth out there, and that is why an event like this is extremely important, because we give people a chance to hear more than what they heard from one side of the media or from certain lawmakers. And when we talk about refugees, the thing is, the myth is that refugees are poor, refugees are hopeless, or they always need help. The thing is, a lot of these refugees were professionals, they had a normal life, they were powerful and capable in their own country, in their own place before they had to flee. So when they came here, it doesn't mean that they are not capable people. So that's one thing. And I learned from somebody who said, as a refugee, when I first come to your country, yes, I need some help. But once you help me stand on my feet, I will run. I will not be a refugee forever. I just need you to help me to stand up, and I will walk, and I will run. As a personal former refugee myself, I know that I never want to be a refugee forever. Let alone, I never want to be a refugee in the first place. I'd like to share something with you that I just heard recently from Professor Majed Al-Madaris at an event a few days ago. I share his sentiments, not his words, very powerful words. He said, refugees are not a liability, we are an asset. Refugees are not a burden, we are resources. So that's one way to combat this kind of mentality. We need to share more of the contributions of refugees to the society. Look at the Vietnamese communities in Sydney alone. What have we brought here? What have we contributed to the economy, to the culture and social lives in this society so far? There's evidence everywhere, but at the same time, this kind of negative thing that refugees will always be here. So it's up to us to utilize our power to fight that mentality.
And Farhat, you have problems with even the label and the word refugee. Can you tell us more about your problems with that?
When I arrived to Australia, I was not thankful for someone who gave me visa, because this visa makes me a refugee. When I was thankful, the country is powerful. If the country is powerful, they can make my mother unsafe. So I can be my mother now, so I was never be a refugee. So I hate this name. I always mention that, and I did promise by myself I will remove this name from my name as soon as much as possible. So briefly, I was always becoming challenges about my last name, and I keep my name Farhat Koristani till now, big problem for me about my last name, and I keep it. And unfortunately, lots of people here in Sydney know me under refugee name, and I hate this name. Because humans are born free, and they can lie anywhere that they like. That's why I say I need to change the rule for the world. We need to accept each other as a human. We should not look from where I am, from which country I am, of which language that I spoke, and which color is my face. Because these things is not in our hand. I born in Afghanistan, so it's my fault. If my generation is Afghani, is it my fault? No, it's not. So if it's in my hand, I was born in a good place. If it's sent by my child. So that's why I say I would like to become a leader of residents to change the rule for the world. First of all, I have to remove the borders, and I give the freedoms for all humans to live anywhere that they like. We are here to draw the borders. We are here to close the doors for the humans. You cannot live here, you cannot live here. Because you're Afghani, because you're Vietnamese, because you're China. We are all human. This is not our fault if we go very deep. That's why I'm really angry with this name, refugee. I don't like it. I'm a free person, and my name is Farhad Pakistani. And that's all.
And we'll applaud again because it's we've hit 5:30, and I'll thank everyone online, everyone here, Cabramatta Community Hall, joining me on this panel, amazing panel, the power of Pakistani, the power of Arfaz, the power of Klan,